oh, but actually, English and computer code are just two different kinds of language. So this is a real example. GPT, find me a security vulnerability, then write code to exploit it. So here's what I put into GPT. Describe any vulnerabilities you may find in the following code. I pasted in some code from an email server, and then write a Perl script to exploit them. And very quickly, it wrote me the working code to exploit that security vulnerability.
So if you had the code of the Wi-Fi router and you wanted to exploit it and then do that, you get the idea. These things can compound on each other.
New technology, really out in the last 3 months, lets you listen to just 3 seconds of somebody's voice and then continue speaking. You can't tell, right? And so how do we expect this to start rolling out into the world? Well, you could imagine someone calling up your kid and getting a little bit of their voice, just, oh, sorry, I got the wrong number, then using your child's voice calling you and saying, hey, mom, hey, dad, I forgot my social security number, I'm applying to a job, would you mind reminding me? And actually, we were thinking about this as we wrote
We're thinking about this example conceptually,
yeah.
and then it turned out that
then
in the last week,
within a week, it turned out other people figured it out too and started scamming people. You have an example about like the locks of society.
yeah, think of it as, I mean, anything that's authentication based, you call your bank and I'm who I say I am. Anything that depends on that verification model. It's as if all these locks that are locking all the doors in our society, we just unlocked all those locks.
What nukes are to the physical world, AI is to the virtual and symbolic world. And what he meant by that was that everything human beings do runs on top of language, which is, you train these models on all of the internet, so it's seen many different languages, but then you only train them to answer questions in English. So it's learned how to answer questions in English, but you increase the model size, and at some point, boom, it starts being able to do question and answers in Persian. No one knows why. Here's another example. So AI developing theory of mind. Theory of mind is the ability to model what somebody else is thinking. It's what enables strategic thinking. In 2018, GPT had no theory of mind. In 2019, barely any theory of mind. In 2020, it starts to develop the strategy level of a 4-year-old. By 2022, January, it's developed the strategy level of a 7-year-old. And by November of last year, it's developed almost the strategy level of a 9-year-old. Now, here's the really creepy thing. We only discovered that AI had grown this capability last month.
It had been out for, what, 2 years?
2 years, yeah. Right now, it turns out it is better at doing research chemistry than many of the AIs that were specifically trained for doing research chemistry. So if you want to know how to go to Home Depot and from that create nerve gas, turns out we just shipped that ability to over 100 million people.
And we didn't know. It was also something that was just in the model, but people found out later, after it was shipped, that it had research-grade chemistry knowledge.
And as we've talked to a number of AI researchers, what they tell us is that there is no way to know. We do not have the technology to know what else is in these models. So what happens when you have, for the very first time, non-humans being able to create persuasive narrative? That ends up being like a 0-day vulnerability for the operating system of humanity. And what he said was the last time we had non-humans creating persuasive narrative and myth was the advent of religion. That's the scale that he's thinking at.